Hey everybody, Professor Snart, just checking in. As we get pretty close to the end of our Masterpieces of World Lit class here, it has been a pretty hairy last few days, as I'm sure you experienced with all the craziness that Blackboard is producing for us. So people being dropped from classes, and the same thing sort of in reverse for me is that all of a sudden the class is there, but my roster is completely empty. The grades are all gone, so I can't communicate with anybody. So pretty wild. It looks like things are back, and everything's back normal for me. So your grades are fine, and the rosters are fine, and you're still registered, of course. So hopefully Blackboard is working for you as well. But it has made the end of our term a little bit even more stressful than it needs to be, because we're already kind of working under a time crunch here. So I'm recording this on Tuesday, July 26th, which means that Unit 9 is due today. I think I'm going to just get into our due dates here, and then the final unit, Unit 10, is due Friday, July 29th. So I didn't really get a chance to provide any sort of commentary for Unit 9, although I'm sure you were dying for it based on the really stunning insights and the Captain America video from last time. But anyway. There's sort of another version of Unit 8, this idea of kind of the modern voice, but challenging either the past or challenging kind of dominant voices that tend to always get people's attention. But the Unit 8 and 9 are sort of a pair that work together. But I'm actually going to just skip ahead to Unit 10 here, which is our last unit, and look at it in a little more depth. So we're into our final essay. And this, a little bit like the midterm, instead of posting to the discussion board, you're submitting like a file a little more formally directly through Blackboard. But the final essay, it really is like an overview essay, or kind of a course reflection type of essay. Even though it's only been 5 weeks, which is very fast, it's now useful at the end of our course to sort of look back and think about ideas we've encountered, whether they be very general, kind of overarching, broad ideas, or very particular texts that we've encountered and relationships between those two things, and kind of parallels among the various texts that we've been looking at and that sort of thing. So as much as we can, really sort of bringing things together. And again, in a 16-week course, it makes a little more sense, or feels a little more natural, that we really have kind of changed as people are encountered new ideas and they've had time to sit with us for a little bit. But things are so rushed in the 5-week term that it may not feel like you have really had enough time to let ideas sink in, or let relationships between texts, let these sort of ideas percolate a little bit. But that's what we're going to try to do for this final essay. So the first thing to say is that even though the style of this essay is going to be different, one of the crucial components is still staying very particular in terms of using direct quotation and direct examples from the readings that you choose to cover for this final essay. Style-wise, though, it's going to be a little bit less formal than the discussion board essay, simply because you're reflecting on your personal experience with, again, the sort of ideas and the text from the course. So by default, you're probably going to be writing in the I voice, which is, again, just tends to be a little bit more conversational than the more formal writing that we've been doing. But I don't want that to then become sort of like no organization and just random, conversational thoughts, sort of associative thinking, and oh, this thing, and oh, then this thing, and oh, this other one, and oh my God, there's something blue. You still want to, even though the voice is much more informal, you still want to maintain a fairly formal academic approach to organization, the incorporation of lots of particulars or lots of details and examples, attention to detail in terms of being sure you're actually answering the question here. So sometimes, again, we read the question, we think, oh yeah, and then we get into this I voice and it starts to ramble and we kind of get away from this and hey, 5 pages, I'm done. So don't let the more informal tone kind of lead you astray from more formal, sorts of like organization and having a distinctive sort of thesis or a clear thesis that you're arguing, remaining as succinct and precise as you can, even in this slightly less formal tone. There are some readings included here, again, just to really broaden our sense of, the diverse kinds of cultures that we're still being able to access, even in a more contemporary scene. So this idea of like the world is flat, and it almost gives a sense that there is no multicultural anymore. Everything's kind of the same and interconnected because of technology. But certainly we can still honor differences among cultures, even if they're not as pronounced, let's say, as some of the much more older or even ancient literatures that we had looked at sort of towards the start of the course. Okay, so hopefully everything is back on track as far as Blackboard goes for people. Everything is working for me again, so rosters and grades are fine. Everything's intact. Nothing has been, screwed up or lost or anything like that. I was extra lenient, I think, as far as grading the discussion board, just because people were probably working as fast as they could to get things done and in before the deadline, or as close to past the deadline as possible because of Blackboard glitches and all this kind of stuff. So everything should be sort of wrapped up. What you do want to do, though, is go into Blackboard, assuming you can, and make sure that you've gotten credit for all the grades, especially these the last unit, let's say. Because if I went in and graded and you hadn't been able to get into Blackboard, because of technical issues, I may not have gone in and checked again or seen, there's no notification for me that there's like new stuff to grade. So if there's a grade that's missing from you or for you because of the recent Blackboard issues, just send me an email and let me know, and I can go back in there and make sure that you get the correct points for things. And I think that's about it. So we really do work towards the end of our course here, kind of wrapping things up. I'll probably check in video-wise at least once again. But otherwise, if you have questions, particularly as we work on this final essay, by all means, be in touch, and I'll talk to everybody soon.